to program to share with us his insights.
早上好，我很高兴来到北京。我是 Gary， 谢谢。春晚不太好，下面我就将用
I'll be speaking English. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, purpose here today is to share with you a sense of why what you are doing really, really matters. I start the presentation by showing a picture of the Earth's surface and how very thin our atmosphere is. The average temperature is 15 degrees Celsius, and that allows us to sustain the planet. However, what we have done in the last 200 years, and especially the last 50 years, has put in peril a lot of what we have achieved as a civilization. I will use the word civilization many times in this presentation because I believe that is what is at stake. The way we live and the way we operate. What is threatening our ability to survive in a civilized manner towards the end of this century is the extent, significantly, of what we are doing to dump 110 million metric tons of CO2 into the atmosphere every single day. And so I believe that the defining story of this century will be the race between two things. The first is the cumulative impact of carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases that we are having in the atmosphere, and how that compares with our belated but now accelerating effort to replace fossil fuel with energy for everyone. And as I was listening to the speeches earlier today, I started to get inspired that we can actually do it. There's leadership, there is vision, there is technology, and there are good people that... So let's focus on energy, which, as I say, drives the economy, it empowers societies, and it produces at the same time significant quantities of the greenhouse gases, especially carbon dioxide, which are compromising our future. And for that reason, I am calling people like you and others outside of this great hall champions, the real foot soldiers in the effort to curb our emissions. People here who are in government, people here who are in the private sector focusing on energy, think tanks, researchers, others. You are basically leading the charge, although you may not know it, to preserve what President Xi Jinping is talking about as a civilization. For the plain fact is that we are not currently containing the effort to control global warming. Industrial era, the parts per million in the atmosphere of carbon dioxide, 80. These are the particles per million that are in the atmosphere, the greenhouse gases. When the United Nations, about 30 years ago, we had that amount to 350. Right now, we're at 400, give or take. Predict that when we reach 450 parts, it's game over. And we will no longer be able to control the runaway effect of an overheating planet through our own actions. We are already seeing 16 of the 17 hottest years in the last decade and a half ever recorded. The evidence is incontrovertible. The planet is therefore undergoing a fever. Something that is of immense concern should be the feedbacks that we are encountering. Feedbacks like the shrinking of the Arctic ice. Feedbacks like the warming of the permafrost in northern Canada and Russia, which will emit methane into the atmosphere. The seas are warming, reducing their ability to retain carbon dioxide. All of these things threaten to escape from our control. And so the hotter it gets, as I say on screen, the faster it will get. The world has concluded that we have a tolerance threshold of 2 degrees Celsius more to preserve a planet that is habitable for our children and our grandchildren and their children. But we are fast approaching that threshold. What will happen when we are in a situation of above 2 degrees Celsius? In fact, what is already happening now? We see a number of human security challenges arising, like sea level rise. I depict on screen 2 images at Central, which is a non-profit entity. The type of flooding will happen in Shanghai. They predict, according in a 2-degree warmer world, and in a 4. Food is another dimension. Degrees Celsius hotter means that we will have, on average, yield from our crops. This is already affecting many countries in Africa and parts of South Asia and other parts of the world. I live in Nairobi. I took this picture about 2 months ago. It represents pastoralists, Maasai, with their cattle feeding just outside of a rich person's gated community, representing the search for water and the potential conflict with others. And finally, the migration of tropical diseases. All of these dots should really be in a tropical band, but because of warming, we see the potential move of pandemics beyond. So, the future is happening now. It is happening right now. And again, I consider you to be champions in trying to fix it with affordable, clean energy. And our challenge is to reduce the reliance on fossil fuels for electricity, heating, and transport. There is good news. Some of it you've heard already, and I will recapitulate some of it now. And that is that we already, every hour, receive enough sunlight to power all of our electrical needs for a full year. The question is how to trap that in solar. I use this image to show that China is already helping in other countries. Belo Horizonte Dam, this is something that was referred to earlier this morning. The amount of wind, the amount of solar installations and photovoltaic capacity is increasing exponentially. Even outreach to places like this. Wind can supply 40% of the world's electricity consumption. The question is how to harness it. And I was very interested to see this morning with the 9 vertical and 9 horizontal strips how we can achieve that. China itself is making a commitment with the Sustainable Development Goals to reduce carbon intensity, meaning the amount of carbon produced per capita, to reach peak emissions and reduce total energy consumption and increase renewables by 15% by the year 2020. This is an amazing goal. It's a very powerful goal. And we applaud the leadership being shown by China in this respect. But will it be enough? This rather complicated graph on screen shows that we right now, I don't have enough time to go into it, but the contribution that we're making is only 30% of what we really need to do to reduce carbon in order to meet the 2030 goals. We have locked-in emissions plans for investment that already contain a lot of carbon, which need to be recalibrated. Part of my mission here to China this week is to look at the Belt and Road countries and see how we can reduce the locked-in emissions that will generate additional climate change because of carbon intensity. So what is now needed? With 1 minute left to go, it's very simple. Increased political ambition on the nationally determined contributions, changes in subsidy policies, divestment, dispersed production, smart grids, energy efficiency. Along these lines, to make it more profitable to invest in energy and in clean and green energy. Sustainable Development Goals, number 7, is basically what we have focused on and in the United Nations, and I'm happy to hear it referred to so many times this morning. And this is the type of partnership that we see happening. So to Chairman Leo, I congratulate you and your team for making this happen. I thank you all for inviting me to this important event, and I wish you every single piece of success that I can muster. Thank you all.